The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber. So I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA, FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at gruns.co. That's code podcast at gruns.co.
Hi, everybody. This is Dawn Mitchell, and welcome to Dawn of Sports. This week, another really good power duo when it comes to sports, and it's sports journalism. And it's right here in Minnesota. Rachel Blount of the Star Tribune and her husband, Pat Borzi, who has written for multitude of newspapers and also MinnPost at the moment. He's written a book, Minnesota Made Me. He's also New York Times. I've known both of them for a long, long time. Truly a Minnesota journalistic power couple. And the stories are amazing. I really want to give this couple their due. So hopefully you will love this conversation as well.
Yes, welcome back to Dawn of Sports with our star, Dawn Mitchell from Fox 9 Sports. Really hope you stick around for the interview today. My longtime colleague and fellow Olympic writer, Rachel Blount, along with her husband, Patrick Borzi, who's worked everywhere and written everything and has done a cool book we're going to tell you about later. So great interview with a couple of great people. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do this kind of podcast where we could sit down and have long-form conversations with interesting exceptional people. So stick around for that. We got to start today, though, Dawn, with Caitlin Clark.
You know, I'm so happy for this. I had the day off and I was at Britt's having brunch with some friends, and my back was to the TV, and I quickly noticed that Iowa was on TV. But so many little girls and their parents were at Britt's, and I was so impressed. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then all of a sudden, I kept looking over my shoulder, knowing it was going to happen at any time, that she was going to break Pete Maravich's record. And when it did, it was kind of like this surreal moment to see these little girls watching on TV, because usually I'm in a bubble, a journalistic bubble. But to see it in public and to be part of it that way was kind of cool.
I was at the Wolves game on Sunday, pregame press conference. Finch is very good with us. He comes in, he's usually very willing to explain things, take his time. And he gets up there and says, we got to keep it quick, guys, today. I got to go watch Caitlin Clark.
So awesome.
Yeah. And Caitlin Clark, here's the question. Is she the greatest college basketball player of all time?
Numbers wise, you'd have to say yes. How can you say no?
You look at winning, transforming a program, transforming a sport, putting up numbers we've never seen before, all-time leading scorer in college basketball, and she's among the nation's leaders in assists. She is a phenomenon. And I think we all love Paige Bueckers. Paige Bueckers is a great player. Paige Bueckers is going to have a great career. But there was a time not that long ago we thought that maybe Paige is better than Caitlin.
Yeah.
And then for a while we're like, okay, they're both pretty even. Caitlin Clark, I mean, it's not Paige's fault. Paige is still a great player, but Caitlin Clark is unique.
She's unique. And I said numbers wise because people like to break things down. Numbers wise, yes. But I also think about the pressure this young woman has had on her shoulders now, and is still performing. And is still embracing the role socially.
Yes. And
just everything that she's bringing forward with her, I would say, even in every other respect, I would say yes.
No doubt about it. I think it, just like I always say, Lindsey Whalen is the greatest basketball player, maybe the greatest athlete in the state of Minnesota. You don't have to categorize by gender. It's about achievement. And what Caitlin Clark has achieved has never been done before.
And what I really love too is Maya Moore was there at the game, and then they had the hug after. And I totally forgot that she met her as a 10-year-old. Mm-hmm. So she said, as a 10-year-old. And so yesterday, Caitlin Clark, who just did this phenomenal thing, said, Maya's here. I'm totally fangirling right now. Yeah. That she's still fangirling. She's still that 10-year-old. And it just goes hand in hand with what we've said all along. As a 10-year-old, she met Maya Moore and got hugged by Maya Moore. And then look how it turns forward. That's one of just those circular moments that you just think is so fantastic.
The Lynx had a dramatic impact on women basketball players and girl basketball players in the upper Midwest.
Yes.
They just did. Paige Beckers had Whalen's poster on her wall. So many young girls did. So many, and this is a great and now this is a great place to watch and recruit women's basketball players because they all grew up with this. They understand it. You know, you always say, see it, be it. Well, there's never a greater example of that than the Minnesota Lynx bringing the power of women's basketball to the upper Midwest.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
Before we get to Rachel and Pat, we want to let you know we were sponsored by Rudy Luther Toyota. They're big supporters of women's sports. Luckily for us, they've also been big supporters of this show's and women's sports at talknorth.com.
Ready for a women-forward car dealership? Rudy Luther Toyota empowers their many women on staff in sales, management, and service. Whether you are looking for a new Toyota or pre-owned vehicle, Rudy Luther Toyota has something for everyone. Every vehicle comes with a Luther Advantage. 10 cents off fuel and car wash discounts at holiday stations, Luther Advantage warranty, and 5-day return policy on pre-owned vehicles. Located just 5 minutes west of downtown Minneapolis, off 394 and General Mills Boulevard. And they're also hiring. Want to join the team but don't know where to start? Visit rudyluthertoyota.com today.
Hey everyone, it's John Krasinski from The Athletic, and on this podcast network, we have the John Krasinski Show, we have the Viking Update Show, talking Timberwolves and Vikings all the time, and some really fun adventures ready for this summer, including partnering with Define Destinations on a wonderful trip to Spain from August 22nd to 29th. And if you sign up with Define Destinations at definedestinations.com, you can go with me to Madrid and Barcelona. The trip includes airfare from Minneapolis, St. Paul, centrally located hotels, a city tour of Madrid, a city tour of Barcelona. We'll stay in 4-star hotels. We'll take some tapas and sangria food tours. They'll have all sorts of different sightseeing adventures. We'll have guided local tours to show us around. Maybe we'll even knock on Ricky Rubio's door. Who knows? But I think it's going to be a great time. You've probably heard Michael Russo talk about these trips and how much fun that they have. And so after a long season with the Timberwolves, hopefully one that goes deep into the spring and early summer, maybe you want to come with me to Madrid and Barcelona in Spain at the end of August for just a wonderful tour. I'm really looking forward to it. Again, sign up at definedestinations.com. Look for John Krasinski's Spain trip, and I hope to see you out there.
Quickly, we always mention the Minnesota Aurora every minute. We always say we have the Minnesota Aurora Minute. I would refer you back to one of our previous shows where we had a long talk with Jessica Poole, COO of the Minnesota Aurora. For today, I'll just remind you that the Minnesota Aurora are going to have Aurora Summer Camps, inaugural camp program by the pre-professional women's soccer team, which is entering its third season this year. I would go to mnaurora.com and check out the camps. If you have a child who wants to get involved in soccer, who wants to be just a part of this great story, I would sign them up for these camps. These are great people. They're going to learn about soccer, but they're also going to be just surrounded by really exceptional people.
And also single game tickets are on sale now.
Yes.
So if they want
and
to
they do sell out. So there is urgency. Go get those tickets right now.
The only other women's thing I wanted to bring up was congratulations to the Gopher women's hockey team surviving Minnesota State Mavericks. So they next will go to the WCHA Final Face-Off, which is also at Ritter. They're number 4 in the country, and they're going to host number 2 Wisconsin. That's coming at Friday, March 8th, 4:30. It's going to be a huge game. So I know March Madness things get lost in the shuffle, but. Right. Congrats to them. And also, Kirill Kaprizov, 300 career point, a hat trick to beat the Sharks. So lots of good going on there too. Hopefully they can keep that rolling because they've been streaky.
Yeah, they're done.
Yeah.
Nice to see Kirill have a good game, but they're done. The Minnesota PWHL team wins at New York. They move back into second place in the standings. We've talked about before, we've had Natalie Darwitz on this program. Highly entertaining game. Really cool to see him play in the X. And guess what? They're also good.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
All right. We're going to get to it. We want you to hear I've covered a million Olympics with Rachel Blount. I've known Pat for a long time. Pat has written a really cool book, Minnesota Made Me. I highly recommend the following conversation. As promised, our conversation, led by Dawn Mitchell, of course, with two great local journalists, Rachel Blount and Patrick Borzi. How about that? I was concentrating so much on I got Rachel's name exactly right that I screwed up the easy one, Borzi. Patrick Borzi.
Want to take another shot at that one, Max?
Patrick Borzi.
Don't
go.
Right.
Take this away before I screw up anything else.
It's okay. For you back home and everyone listening, wondering why I was teasing Rachel that someone was correcting me on how to say her last name, and I've known her for years. No, the basketball player pronounces it Blunt. And I'm like, right, but I know her and it's Blount. So I was just telling Jim that story, so I got in your head, didn't I? It was so funny.
Everybody's name is not pronounced the same. A name can be spelled the same way and pronounced two different ways. This is a common thing.
Exactly. Coming from Dawn, who people spell my name D-O-N. So I get it. I understand.
Yes.
I get it. Well, joining us today, for all of you listening at home, is Rachel Blount, Pat Borzi, and I wanted to invite you both on, both prolific writers, especially here in the Twin Cities. But earlier we had a podcast where we had Ron Johnson and his wife, Shawnee Marks Johnson. And I said, there's a lot of sports, what I call power couples, in the Twin Cities that I quite frankly don't think people get enough attention to. And I've spoken to you both separately about this in terms of careers and the body of work you both have done individually. And then to be together. So I just kind of wanted to give you a platform and introduce you as personalities to people, because sometimes writers, they don't get to show their personalities. So first, if you don't know of Rachel Blount, longtime amazing writer at Star Tribune. Not only have you covered Olympics du year, amazing work. You've also done horse racing, hockey. Every time I go to either a college hockey game or sometimes even wild, I don't know where you fit it in your other schedules. I have seen you for years, and to have a fellow woman as soon as I got here to be in the trenches there. Thank you so much.
Oh,
your work
welcome.
is amazing.
I'm glad we have more women in the market. How exciting is it that we see more and more all the time?
Yes, absolutely. And the war stories and the scars, we'll get into some of those. And of course, her amazing husband, Pat Borzi, who I'm just telling you, we met back east. And those are stories for another day.
Yes, please.
But you have written for so many. You've written, of course, for the Star Tribune as well, but most recently, New York Times, Min Post. You've written a book, Minnesota Made Me, which is an amazing book. So you're an author, you're a writer, freelance journalist. I am so proud of you, Pat, for when I first met you in Boston. Were you with the Hartford Current?
No,
or
I was. And let me correct one thing. I've never written for the Star Tribune.
Really? I thought you did articles freelance for them.
No, I never did. They used some of my stuff from the New York Times service when I was a stringer for the Times.
Interesting. Okay.
So that.
Ad hoc, is that what we call it?
Yeah. But yeah, I wrote when we met back in Boston. I was covering the Boston pro teams for the Portland Press Herald up in Maine.
Oh God,
that was back when newspapers had money, and it was a great. It was and still is a great little paper. And I was their one-person Boston bureau, and you were working for Nesson at the time, doing studio work, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, sports desk.
Yeah.
Nice. Yes.
That's right.
Listen, sports desk.
And when I moved up and I went to the Newark Star-Ledger to cover the Yankees, the very first opening day that I covered was in 1996, and we're in Cleveland. And I'm kind of soaking it in before the game, and I'm a bit nervous and intimidated. I mean, this is the Yankees, and I look up on the scoreboard, and who do I see on the scoreboard? You. Because they were showing the Red Sox were playing a little bit later.
I was only one in 1996.
Yeah.
Was it my birth announcement?
Yeah,
it was impressive how quickly you moved up the ranks after birth.
Yeah, it was something, because I looked up and I said, "Hey, I know her," and I kind of got a chuckle, because I said, "Okay, well, Dawn's been in the big time for a long time, and now I guess I'm in the big time too." So
I never knew that story.
I never told you that story.
No, you've never told me that story.
Thought I did. I tell you that story, Rich?
Oh.
No,
I've never heard that story.
Oh,
no.
Wow. I told you that.
Big screen.
Maybe
gone.
not. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was kind of, anyway, it was kind of cool and comforting. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to be all right here.
Well, so let's flip that. When I got here in 2004, I remember I sent out, I think it must have been mass email back then, right? Because we couldn't tweet it.
Right.
And I said, I am moving to Minnesota. If anyone has any connections in Minnesota, please let me know, because I am moving again to a place in my life where I do not know a soul. And I've done that before. Milwaukee, Chicago, I didn't know these people. San Diego. And you said, Mitch. Hey, Mitch, you do know someone.
Yeah.
I live here. I go, what? He goes, yeah, this is where I am now. I'm like, what? I thought you were in New York. He's like, nope. And immediately, and I think both of you took me out to Pizza Luce. And
At
we had
4
our...
a.m.?
The uptown location of Pizza Luce.
Okay, that's a little different experience.
Yeah.
But that was my comfort level. Like, it was one of those, I do know, this is my anchor. I do know. So my little flag in the snow, I should say, not sand, but here. So, wow. So that's kind of like a full circle.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Well, I wanted to ask you too, first of all, when two big writers get together, you met, was it covering Olympics? How did you guys meet?
It was the 1998 Olympics in Nagano, Japan. It was the first Olympics that either one of us had covered. I was working for the Star Tribune. Pat was working for the Newark Star Ledger in Newark, New Jersey. And Pat had a friend from New York Newsday that he had worked with. I had my colleague, Jay Weiner, who was at the time, the head Olympics writer for the Star Tribune. Well, Pat's friend, John, and Jay were very close friends. So John and Jay would hang out together, and then Pat and I would inevitably be with them. So through the 3 weeks or so that we were in Nagano, we were around each other a lot and got to know each other. And when the Olympics were over, we said, well, this was fun hanging out. We need to stay in touch. So we did. And then we started dating long distance, and we did that for a couple of years. And then it's a great story about when we were deciding who was going to move where once it got serious. Partly the choice was made to come here because my job is union protected. So I had much better job protection than Pat did. And I already owned a house. So, it was a pretty good idea for him to come here anyway. But the first time I visited Pat in Newark, he picked me up he lived in Fort Lee, New Jersey. He picked me up at the Newark airport. We're driving down the New Jersey Turnpike. It's a warm day. I rolled the window down in the car and he said, you don't want to do that. We're driving past these rusted out factories and there's smog in the air. And I'm like, oh, okay. I roll it back up and he turns on the air conditioning. The first time he visited me in Minneapolis, I pick him up at the airport. I live in South Minneapolis. So to get to my house, we drive past Lake Nokomis and down the parkway. And he's looking around. He said, my God, how much do they pay you at the Star Tribune? This is like a really wealthy looking neighborhood. I said, no, this is middle class Minneapolis. So our drives from the airport to each other's homes were so different. And that kind of cemented that, it's probably a better choice to be here than there.
Pat, I've always known that you were smart. All right. So this just kind of doubles down on it. And I do remember when I was saying, how'd you get to Minneapolis? You said, well, I married a woman from Minnesota who lives in Minnesota from Iowa, but I'm going there. And back then, it was hard pressed. And I'm speaking from personal experience to have anyone that you're dating have you move for them. The guys never moved in my experience for women.
Yeah.
Usually it was the other way around. Well, it's expected that you move. I'm the man. So when that was like my first light bulb moment, like, oh, men like that do exist.
At least one.
Yeah.
Could be a unicorn.
Yeah. Well, as Rach said, you do the mental matching column and, pros and cons, and it lined up for a whole lot of reasons. And some of the ones that we're talking about and some other ones that I'll keep to myself. But it was the easiest call I ever made and the best call I ever made. So, and here we are, 20 something odd years. And, what has then happened in New York and other places, validated the decision that I made at the time for the right reasons. And, Rach has had a fabulous career, and, No, it just made too much sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's good for us that you didn't take Rachel away from the market.
Yeah.
Because
Thank
Rachel,
you.
Rachel's done incredible work for us. She's as good an Olympic writer as there is in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been great to work with Rachel all these years. Great to see her. Been great to see her work. It's been great to collaborate with her at the Olympics because it's a different. We were talking about it off the air earlier. It's a completely different experience than anything else you'll ever do. Longer hours, more dependence on logistics, time changes. It's brutal. It's a great. I think Royce once said it the best. He said, "It's a great thing to have done,
Yes.
but while you're doing it,
It is not.
it's rough."
Yeah. You're
It's
like,
like
oh
covering
my
a
God.
Super Bowl.
Yeah.
How am I going
On roids.
to get through this day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So let me ask you, I was glued to your coverage. Well, I read everything that you put out, first of all, Rachel, but Suni Lee, just such a local phenom. And, here in Minnesota and ever around the country, because she's just so darling, but especially here, local grown, this is our woman, to have a front row seat for history. In addition to working a gazillion hours, I think you said you had a 36-hour shift or something crazy like that. How was that for you to know that you are the main spokesperson, basically, the main vehicle to get that local story right and to get it home and to cover history?
That's what keeps you going through those long days at the Olympics, is when you have a moment like that. You're sitting there and she's going through her routines and she's in first place and she's in first place and and you can hardly believe. I mean, I can't even explain how many times I thought, oh my God, our girl from St. Paul is going to win the Olympic all-around
Oh, I
championship.
just got chills.
It was,
and I already know
yes.
what happened.
Yes, it was absolutely, you can not even get your mind around it that this is happening. And this, of course, is a young woman that we started covering several years back at the Star Tribune. Once she made the national scene, we started writing about her. She trains in this little gym in a strip mall in Little Canada. It's just such a low-key story. She's from a Hmong family from St. Paul, just a nicest family you would ever want to meet. And to imagine her being, suddenly becoming one of the most famous athletes on the planet was just stunning. And that day that she won the Olympic all-around, I remember watching as she's doing the rotations. I mean, first of all, she's nailed everything. And as you're watching her move around, she's with her coach, Jess Graba, who coaches her at Midwest Gymnastics in Little Canada. And, we have a relationship with him as well as he started coaching her when she was like 6 years old. And so you're watching Jess and Suni move around, and you can't help but think in the back of your mind, holy cow, these are people that I have talked to so many times in the gym in my town. And here we're in Tokyo on the Olympic stage, and they're doing these great things. It's really special in a way that's hard to describe, that it's so much more than, say, it was really cool to go cover the Caitlin Clark game last week.
Right.
But that's a different thing than seeing your own hometown athlete that you've covered closely for several years do this amazing thing, win an Olympic all-around gold medal. And to know that you get to write that story in a hyper-local way for the readers who know her, for the readers that are her neighbors, her friends, her teachers at school, the moms of the other kids in the gym, that you're writing for an audience that knows her and loves her in a way that a billion TV viewers don't know her.
Right.
And to have the institutional knowledge that you've gained over the years because you've built that relationship with her and with her coach over the years, it felt, this sounds totally corny, but I'm going to say it. It felt like a sacred trust. It's like, that you have a story that you can tell uniquely simply because of the access that you've had and the relationships that you've built. And I felt such a responsibility to tell it well. I was excited and jazzed, but I also felt a little bit of weight that day because I thought that I got to write the greatest story I've ever written because she deserves it. And our readers deserve it. So there's a huge sense of responsibility that comes with it as well. But my gosh, that's one of the greatest days of my career. I'll never forget it.
Let me set the scene because Rachel and I were working together then. and Rachel had to cover Reagan Smith early in the morning. And then the Suni Lee thing was late at night. It was COVID, which made everything more difficult. So it really speaks to not just Rachel's work ethic and expertise, but also what newspapers should do, what your local newspapers should do. We had our Olympic writer there. We had our columnists there. There were not many people in the building because of COVID. So if we're not there, then the Star Tribune is picking up an Associated Press story with none of this background, none of this expertise, and saying Suni Lee won gold, and everybody's like glancing at the headline and putting the paper down. Instead, Rachel produced stuff that people clipped and saved forever, and with background and insights that nobody else in that building would have had. And to do it, she had to work about a 27-hour shift. This is not something you can farm out to somebody else.
Right. And, you brought up something, and even before you said it, I was thinking, what a burden of responsibility. Like the burden to tell the story uniquely, to the gravitas that is needed.
Yes.
But the inside knowledge and bring out the personality. So you're saying that, and I'm just thinking, I'm feeling it in my chest. And then you said, then I felt that responsibility. And I was like, oh, that's so much better. I was thinking the burden, that's just the yoke that's cast upon you when you have something like that to do it. Can you tell everyone, how do you, as a writer, and you too, Pat, how do you shake that off? I know in TV it's different because sometimes we have 2 minutes. I'm like, how do I do this person justice in 2 minutes? But sometimes in the written word, in a different way, the burden is bigger.
Yeah, that it's like Jim said, people will save that
save
article. They might send it around to other people. It's something that lasts. It's more of a permanent thing. And I know in my case on that day, I had a lot of confidence in my knowledge. That helps a lot when you've been able to build the relationships over time and you really know these people and you know the situation. That helps a ton. And there's an excitement too. There's that huge responsibility, almost a burden, as you said, and yet so thrilling to know that this was in my hands, that I got to write this story. So there's a sense of I have to write this story, and then there's also a sense of I get to write this story.
Yes.
So really, it's kind of a half and half, and it where I ultimately land with things like that is to just let it go. I'm pretty emotional in my writing. I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve. I'm not afraid to just say, to use adjectives and to set scenes and talk about the emotions of the moment. And that was, I hoped that story conveyed how excited I was to see this happen and how incredible it was to see this happen, because I'm sure our readers felt the same way. I'm sure they felt the same sense of awe and wonder at this. So that's kind of what I relied on in the moment, is just let your emotions flow through this story and let the hugeness of the moment, don't shy away from it. Put it out there.
Pat, what if I can have you put on first the journalist hat and then the husband hat? Because you're like, oh my gosh, I know that Rachel's covering this and this is a big moment. And I know you want to read her story, but you're also know what she's going through. First, as a journalist, when you read that, and it's hard to dissociate. I know, oh, this is my wife, and I know she's an amazing writer. But when there's that huge story and she nailed it, give us both sides. As a husband, how proud, and also as a journalist, yes.
Well, let me think about this one a second, because, Rach, during when the Olympics is going on, Rach and I don't talk very much because she's too busy and the time difference or whatever. But I know I have a sense of what's going on before she gets on the plane. And as the thing's happening, I have this sense of trust that, Rach is one of those people that rises to the moment. And I know the story is going to be fabulous. The wonder is it the direction she's going to take, because the Suni Lee stuff, I mean, Jim and I have talked about this, and I've talked about this with other people, that 27-hour day that he talked about, beginning with Reagan Smith winning a medal in the morning, and then writing multiple versions of that, and then multiple versions of Suni Lee winning the gold medal. I'll go to my grave saying this, hopefully not soon, but I will go to my grave saying this, that no one in this market has had a day, no sports person in this market has had a day like that, to being able to write story after story after story and to cover as well as she did, and to do it for that long a period of time. I don't believe any sports person in this market has had a day like that was as high level and productive as she did that day. And I don't think that a lot of people really realize how much went into that, because probably 90% of that was done before the day even happened. The gist of it is Rachel does terrific work. And, what she did that way was as good, if not better, than any journalist in this town has done over a long period of time. And it's fun to read her stuff after a big event, because she'll, besides the fact that it's really well done, that there's always a little surprise in it, something that I didn't expect. And as someone who's, I've covered World Series, I've covered Super Bowl, so I have a sense of what it's like to kind of immerse yourself in the moment and just let the emotion and let that sense of wonder kind of wash over you, and then let it come out in your story. So I have a sense of what that's like. I mean, it's to see Rach execute it as well as she does, of course I'm going to be proud of her. But even if I was just a normal reader and didn't know her, I would have the same sense of wonder and the same pleasure and gratitude to read it, because I've worked with some really, really terrific people in this country, and I've been in rooms with the absolute best in our business, and Rachel's stuff is right there with everyone, and particularly at a moment like that. And she's looking down. I'm embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
Because now I'm going to give her an opportunity to embarrass you. So, turnabout is fair play. I'm going to flip the script. So, Rachel, when we all know that Pat is an amazing writer, doesn't matter what city, when he says, I'm going to write this book, which I look at all the pictures of you holding that book too, Pat, and like you're just beaming. Writing a book is totally different than writing a story, writing a column, right? And then getting it published and then having to do the PR for it. So what do you, love most about Pat's writing, and especially to take on the daunting task of writing a book?
So Pat wanted to write a book for a long time. It's something that he talked about, but he didn't want to do it just to do it. It had to be the right book. He had to get the right idea. And that idea actually was brought to him by a publishing company and pitched to him. And I think he knew pretty quickly that it was something he wanted to do, because his book, Minnesota Made Me, is a collection of stories about athletes either from Minnesota or who made their athletic fame in Minnesota, and how this state shaped them, what it was about Minnesota that helped them become the athletes that they became. And there was no shortage of people. In fact, I can't even remember how many people you thought about including in the book that you didn't include, simply because you had a limitation on how many it could be. So to see him go through that process,
that's so hard.
Oh my gosh. Oh, so again, people that he didn't include, that there could be a second volume of that book easily, maybe even a third, because there are just so many wonderful personalities. So to see him go through that process of figuring out who to include and then doing the interviews, Pat is really, really diligent. Pat takes his work very seriously, and he feels a sense of responsibility, I think, to his subjects of telling their story in a complete way, in an honest way, in a truthful way, and helping them making it their personality come through in the written word. Pat doesn't ever make his writing about himself. I mean, sometimes, there are some people that write and they somehow manage to, insert themselves into the stories, or their voice is so strong that almost overpowers the subject. But Pat does not do that. Everything he does is in service to the story or the person at the center of the story. So to watch him through that process, to write all those profiles, it was a lot of them, and for each one to give it the care and attention that it deserved, to want every one of those people to feel like their story was told as well as it possibly could be. It was fun to watch that. And it brought home to me, this is what a journalist does. They are in service to the stories that they tell. It's not about us. That is, to me, that's one of the primary rules of journalism. It's not about us. And Pat absolutely personified that during the course of writing that book. And I love how it turned out. And I think that's why it resonated with people. It wasn't, Pat Borzi tells the stories of these athletes. It was, here's a collection of stories about athletes. And these stories tell you as Minnesotans why you should admire these people. Why are these people special?
Yeah. And can I add something here? What Rach is talking about not inserting yourself into the story is something I had to learn, and I learned from Rach, because that's the essence of her stuff. I also got really lucky in that for the deadline was right in the middle of the 2018 Olympics. And I took a shot in the dark and profiled 4 people who were going to the Winter Olympics, and every one of them won a gold medal.
Yeah, that worked out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Hope you bought a lottery ticket that week.
Yeah. Well, and one of them was John Schuster, the skip of the Olympic curling team, who had his 2 previous Olympics had not gone well.
Yeah.
And
his gold medal was something of a miracle.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a phenomenal story that.
Borzi touch.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And let me tell you something. An Italian from New York had to learn how to step out of a story and not just cover it with voice and nonsense and belligerence and all the stuff that makes New Yorkers obnoxious to people.
I don't think you give yourself enough credit. I just want to say that.
Agreed. Yes.
It's easy to just toss that aside, but I'm looking at Jim, I'm looking at you, I'm looking at Rachel. I mean, all 3 of you, like we talk about the rooms that you sit in and greatness of writing, you all bring to the readers what should be brought.
Yeah.
Whether, and Jim especially, we've talked about this, whether people like what you write or not, someone out there is thinking it. It's a voice that needs to be expressed. Whether it's a fan, whether it's an athlete, and you had the burden of, you got to write. You got to write for so many people and to tell their story. That's an honor.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun talking to a lot of different people, and some of them were people like Paul Molitor, who had gone through some personal struggles and had learned from them, and the lessons that he imparts now to kids. And there were some fun ones too. And they were all fun. And there were some that were, they're all fun and they're all interesting. And some of them took me in a direction that I wasn't expecting to go. It was a cool project. And yeah, Rach is right. When we started with a list of like 70 something names, and we could very easily, maybe if the book had sold more copies, I'd already have done a volume 2. But they're
But you
still
put yourself out there. That's the hard part.
Yeah, well.
And you're right, Don, about the promotion and the PR that you do too.
So much.
Yeah, he made appearances, where they at bookstores and stuff, and you did a reading at a library.
Yeah, I just in fact, not just a couple of months ago, did one down at the library in Albert Lee with some very nice folks, which was pretty cool.
So let me ask you. I know with me, sometimes on my off days, I want to get away from sports. It's like I tell my friends, some days, I want to go to the game on my off day. I want to go to the Wild game and, cheer for 10 goals. Like I can cheer, right? Because I'm not in the press box. But some days you just want to get away with it. So when you're married to someone who's also a sports writer, please tell me that there are some days it's like, no, we're not talking sports in this house, or do you not have that rule, or how do you get away from it? Or don't you?
We do not have that rule. Oh. And in fact, we talk a lot. We watch a ton of sports in our house. We frequently have a game on television.
But not always.
Not always. No, that is true. That is true. But we frequently do. And we engage with it. We talk sports all the time. I mean, we really do talk a lot about sports. And, things like we'll be watching a basketball game and we're both yelling at the TV. We're saying, oh, no, watch out for that screen, or oh my God, they dropped into the zone. What a terrible mistake. What a bad call by that coach. And we're analyzing constantly. The two of us, we find ourselves doing that, talking about, well, if I was coaching that team, here's what I'd be doing now. And we'll go back and forth
like my mother.
Like that.
Yeah, I think the guy in this relationship probably does too much talking.
I was going to say, New York brought Iowa out of her shell.
But we do talk. We watch a lot of sports and we talk a lot of sports.
What do you do to get away? There's got to be a break.
Oh yeah, we'll go to the theater once in a while. We'll go to the movies. Mm-hmm. We'll at night
we watch Rocky.
Mighty Ducks. Miracle.
No, actually, we don't. I mean, when was the last time we watched a sports movie?
It's been a while since we watched a sports movie. Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll watch other things. We like police procedurals.
Yeah, we're a big fan of the Law and Order franchise.
Oh, give me a Law and Order. Give me an FBI. I don't care if it's international, if it's, most wanted. You give me all that.
So we love those shows.
Yeah.
If you call a house on Thursday night and we don't answer the phone, pretty good idea what we're doing.
Well, I wanted to bring up this topic, and I certainly did not want it to be the number one, because I don't like it when something tough that you go through defines you. And if you're open to talk about it, Rachel, one of the things I am most in awe of you, and I've known you for years, but your personal battle with cancer, and you were still, to the utmost of your energetic body would let you were still, I remember covering hockey, and there you were, and you're like, I'm going down to Mayo tomorrow, or doing the treatments. Tell us how you're doing. You look amazing.
Thank you.
You just look beautiful.
Thank you.
Please give us the update and how it was to kind of balance everything through that.
I am doing great. I had my most recent scan and blood work in December and completely clear. My oncologist feels like if we can get to this July, which would be 2 years since the diagnosis, and I'm still scanning clear, that'll be a huge milestone for me. Yeah, he feels like given my kind of cancer and the way everything played out, that if we can get to 2 years, he won't be quite ready to declare it completely defeated, but he thinks that's going to be a big milestone. I officially have to get to 5 years before I can use the word cure. So my situation right now, my status is no evidence of disease.
Nice.
And I feel good. I'm mostly everything is back to normal. I had a few issues post-treatment because I had surgery, and then I had chemotherapy, and then I had radiation. And so I did have a few lingering issues from just the toll that took on my body. But I mean, the good news is the cancer is gone, and my oncologist is pretty confident that it won't come back.
Oh, so amazing to hear you say those words.
It's amazing to feel it, because I will never forget that day that I got the diagnosis. You can't believe it. And they caught it completely by happenstance. It was gallbladder cancer, and it was found incidentally after I had abdominal pain, went to the ER. They found I had gallstones. 6 weeks later, they took out my gallbladder, totally simple procedure. And as a matter of routine, they always send it to a pathology lab just to make sure there's nothing else going on. And they found it was full of cancer.
Stop. That's how you found out?
That's how I found out. There were no symptoms of cancer, no signs of cancer, no reason to believe it until they looked at it in the pathology lab after it had come out and found it was full of cancer.
Thank you, gallstones.
Thank you, gallstones. Our little joke that we have is the night before I had the abdominal pain, we were craving fried chicken. We went to Raising Cane's. So I ate fried chicken and French fries. And then I woke up in the middle of the night with this god-awful abdominal pain. So we always laugh about the fact that, people say that Raising Cane's isn't healthy for you. That saved my life. It saved my life.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
We're all going to Raising Cane's right now.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So that was how I found out that I had it. And the good part was, gallbladder cancer normally has a very low survival rate, about 19% 5-year survival. So that was terrifying to find that out. But in my case, they found that the cancer did not break through the wall of the gallbladder. Typically, the low survival rate is because it isn't diagnosed until it's broken through the gallbladder and gone into the liver. And in my case, it had come very close, but it had not broken through that wall. But they still, the typical follow-up is still, they go in for a major surgery afterwards and they remove 1/3 of your liver, the closest to the gallbladder, and all the lymph nodes in the area. And I got lucky again there. They found cancer only in one lymph node and none in the liver. So all these things were good signs that there was not any serious metastasis. So I knew right away that I was in better position than a lot of people with gallbladder cancer. And then just to make sure we got everything, I had 6 months of chemo and 6 weeks of radiation after that.
Yeah, I like to tell people that's like trying to kill a spider with a blowtorch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But the idea was, my oncologist felt like if we take all these steps, we can cure you. We can make sure that you are cancer-free. And so I was willing to do all of that.
Well, when you said 19%, I shuddered.
Yes.
Imagine what we did when we heard that.
Yeah.
And I said, and then to
Terrifying.
be the person that gets that.
Terrifying.
And what flashed in my brain is, how do you mentally fight that? And then I immediately just went to, well, it's Rachel. She persists, right? That word comes through, as a woman in sports journalism, everything that you've had to fight. I'm getting all teary here, but, just how you have to valiantly keep fighting for, there are sports like, you cover the Vikings. Oh, like you have to fight for the Olympics. You have to fight for horse racing. You have to fight for, the college hockey and the occasional wild. I'm like, well, of course she didn't and I was thinking, I hope if anyone's out there listening, if you get that 19%, you fight.
Yes.
You persist.
Absolutely.
Like you're like, okay, let's get the pathology. What's the next step? Not like, 19.
Yeah, just going to cash it in, right?
Yeah.
I was so fortunate too, Dawn. I was surrounded by so much support, so many loving, supportive people, including you. You left the loveliest messages for me on my Caring Bridge page, and we talked, and it was the strength that I pulled from that was amazing. People talk about that all the time, right? Oh, I had a great support system. And you believe it, but I'm here to tell you that you can't really understand what that means until you've been the recipient. It's one thing to be that person for someone else. And I'm sure, you feel like you're helping and it's great. But when you have to rely on that, when you have to be the taker and not the giver, it meant everything to me. It sounds so corny, but it is so true that there were days when I would read some note that someone left on Caring Bridge, or I'd get a little package in the mail or a card from somebody, and I would physically feel lifted up. I would physically feel stronger because it just reminded me that all these people are sending me good karma and prayers and positive thoughts, and you can just feel it making you stronger. And it would have been a lot harder without that. So I can never say thank you enough to people like you and all the folks that were just so unbelievably supportive. It meant the world to me. And it the people talk about how illness like this can change you.
Yes.
And that is one way in which it changed me. Is it really showed me in a very intimate way the value of being that helping hand for somebody, being that supportive person. You might think, and we all think this, right? Sometimes that, well, gosh, I bet they've got a lot on their mind. I should send them a card, but maybe they don't want to talk about it, or maybe, any gesture, I can tell you, any gesture that anyone makes of support, caring, it means so much to that person. Just don't ever underestimate how important that is and the difference it can make in someone's life.
That is amazing. Yeah, you don't think that especially I find very kind Minnesotans. They don't want to burden you further.
You're right. Yes, you're right.
They don't want to bother you, and I don't want to bring it up. And that's a great reminder.
Yeah,
to just show up.
Yes, absolutely. And even a gesture that you think is so small, just sending somebody a text saying, "Just thinking about you today." My goodness, there were days when that happened, and I wasn't having a good day, and you just get that text, and you feel loved. You feel special, you feel supported, and it gives you strength in the moment.
How did it change you, Pat?
Well, that's a good question. I had to be a little bit of a coach through this. We saw all the numbers, and Rach was a terrific advocate for herself. I guess before we go any further, props to medical team that she had at the Mayo Clinic and Minnesota Oncology who were on point and positive and said, we got a shot here.
And it's a rare cancer. And so that was the scariest thing to begin with, was it was a rare cancer. So I knew that a lot of medical professionals had never dealt with it before. So we were fortunate that we found some who had.
Yeah. What was the number, Rach? It was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they said 4,000 cases a year in the U.S. and Mayo did 100.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So they knew what they were doing. And Rach, when she got the diagnosis, Rach was her own advocate first. So she got a hold of Mayo, and Mayo was like, come on down here. And that got the thing going. And then after listening to the folks at Mayo, the numbers weren't great. But what I tried to, and what the doctors continued to do with Rach, and which I tried to do at home too, is to say, none of that applies to you, because that all has to do with finding it late. They didn't find it late. They found it early. And, but it's hard because it's your life.
Yeah.
And,
Pat had to talk me off the ledge a few times for sure. Yeah.
Well, and, I had we had friends of ours who, I don't want to out him here, but it's a good friend, and his wife had been through something very similar. And then they were a great comfort to us, as well as some other folks who had been through cancer treatments. Very, very supportive. And, I always knew that, Rach was tough, and that, she had persevered through a lot personally and professionally. So, none of this was any great surprise to me. But I think that, you can't help but be affected when someone you love goes through something like this. And it was, and I'm getting a little emotional too, just grateful that we lived. I told one of my college friends this. I said, all you guys that were yelling at me 20 years ago, why are you moving to Minnesota? This is why you moved to Minnesota, because you have access to this kind of health care and these kind of people who got Rach through this. You learn a lot about resiliency and spirituality. And then, like Rach talks about, the support that she got from all our friends and people, even readers, people that don't know us.
Yeah.
Yes. I've always told Rach that there's a Rachel Blount constituency in this area. And it's not the people that, leave comments on stories on the Star Tribune website or, send you an email or whatever. It's not excuse me, folks like that. It's the people that just love and appreciate Rach for who she is and what she does that never say a word. And there was a lot of that. A lot of those folks came up, and I looked at the Caring Bridge messages just about every day too, and there was a lot of wonderful stuff. And as you know, Dawn, you were obviously one of the people, as Rach mentioned, and there were quite a few others that. I mean, even little things like hang in there, and you got this, and we're praying for you. All those little things help. And listen to me. I'm getting the emotional Italian here. But thank God we got through it. And,
Pat was a great caregiver too. I should also mention that Pat was an absolute rock and did everything necessary. Drove me to Mayo and took care of me when I was down after the surgery for a few weeks, and made sure everything got handled, and was there to boost me up on the days when I didn't feel well physically or mentally or emotionally. So yeah, I just, it would have been a much different situation if I hadn't had him by my side through the whole thing.
Hey,
for
look,
sure.
the biggest thing I did in all this was finding that really good Italian restaurant for us in Rochester.
Ah, that was good. Yes, that's true. That's true. That pizza place in Rochester, that was really good.
Yeah, well, two of them. There was a pizza place, and then the sit down restaurant.
Yeah, right.
That was right next to Mayo.
Yeah, that's true.
What was the name of that place? You remember?
Victoria.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
it. Yeah, we need to get back down there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, go back to Rochester. Just to
not
eat.
a sponsor of this podcast.
Right. Could be. Sorry about that.
reaching out. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I want to wrap this up by saying exactly what you both have been talking about is why I wanted you both to be on here. Because, Rachel, you and I could do a whole show on just what you have been through as a female sports reporter.
And you as well, yes.
And to get to this point. And we have spoken off about this. But today I wanted it to be about the both of you. And
boy, I'll bet the two of you could tell some stories.
we could tell
Yes.
stories.
Oh
Good.
boy, I've heard a lot
When
of
we're
them.
both retired.
Yes.
At some
Well,
point.
That's our book.
I will say everybody should go read Helene Elliott's farewell column at the
Beautiful.
Los Angeles Times.
Yes.
One of the
I
greatest-
haven't read that.
Yeah, one of
It's
the greatest.
beautiful.
She took the buyout. Her husband died, then she took the buyout,
Yeah.
and she's one of the greatest hockey writers and sports journalists in history.
Yes.
She wrote beautiful.
She's amazing.
farewell.
Yes.
piece.
And if I could interject one thing, her late husband Dennis D'Agostino was a classmate of mine at Fordham in
Oh,
New
wow.
York.
Stop.
And Dennis is another example
Wow.
of someone who moved to accommodate his wife's job. A class act all the way. And, Dennis unfortunately passed away of a heart attack a few months ago. Just a really sad story. Helene is a Hockey Hall of Famer. As I'd met her a million years ago at Newsday when I was a clerk, there. And when she was covering a lot of different things for them. And as classy a person, and she's covered a lot of Olympics with Rach, as classy a person as there is out there, and just a really, really sad story.
And Jim's right that the farewell column is absolutely worth reading. I would
Yeah.
encourage
I look
everyone to
forward
read it.
to
It's
that.
wonderful. It's wonderful. It's very sad, but it's a beautiful, really well written column.
Yeah, you can go to LA Times website, or it's floating around there on Twitter somewhere. I mean, it's touching and sad. Helene's just terrific. I can't say enough good things about her.
Well, I wanted to put the spotlight when we first started talking about doing this podcast, and Jim knows this well, that it was very imperative for me to empower women, but not to be dismissive of men.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been my experience from my dad, my brothers, my friends. And then even when I got into the profession, Pat, I was just starting out. I was like just so green, and you were always supportive, that there are fantastic men that support women and we'll move for them, but that's just support women. And they're not threatened by their success and their talent. And so I just wanted to chat with you guys, and thank you so much. I really appreciate you being so honest and trusting me to have you guys talk about your stories too. So I love you guys.
We
so
wouldn't
much.
have done this for just anybody.
Thank you. Make sure to be on a big screen near you soon. Just so
Absolutely.
All right. Rachel Blount, Pat Borzi, I adore you both. Thank you so much for joining Jim and myself today and opening up, because I think you both are Minnesota made in many respects, and gems. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
What a
for
great
having us,
conversation.
Dawn. Jim, thanks.